Good to have you here. Thank you for joining us. This is another video. Luke and I have talked quite a few times over the past few months since the pandemic started. And one of the things that we've really wanted to be able to do is connect with you more, have conversations with you. But this pandemic has kind of gotten in the way. And so as we've been talking about issues, we've kind of just wished that we could be with you or you could be with us as we have these conversations. And so this is going to be a conversation that we're just going to invite you to watch and listen and join with us. And so Luke and I, we're going to banter a little bit here. And our topic for this morning is actually conspiracy theories. Luke, maybe you can help me out. Why are we talking about conspiracy theories? I want to put this on your plate.
Yeah, so, well, I think obviously the main thing is that COVID has enhanced that. So when you think of all the things going on around us in the pandemic, it's really been enhanced that way. And so as a result, it's a conversation in a lot of people's homes, even if it's, not that everybody is obsessing about it in their homes, but people are asking, right? You're talking about, as you interpret the news and things going on, you're going, you're wondering, is this a conspiracy? Is it not? Is it true? Is it not? And so it's something, it's just prevalent right now. And we're not trying to signal anyone out. We didn't, I didn't come to you and say, hey, there's a couple people that need to hear this. Let's talk about this, right? We were just, it's something that is just around us and people are just experiencing. So, and then obviously it can be consuming and distracting. And so I think for that sense, it's valuable to talk about as well. So, yeah, so that's kind of why.
So that's why. And so then maybe what is a conspiracy? Like, how would you define it?
Yeah, so I think a conspiracy really is the belief that there's an organization or a group of people working together, like pulling the strings, kind of like a puppet, behind the scenes with the government or vaccines, or we'll get into examples later. But this conspiracy is a secret, so it's a secret. It's something we don't know, we can't prove, and it's a theory. Meaning, may or may not, again, be true. It's just all wrapped up in that word. Conspiracy theory is that it's a secret, that there's a group working to do something unlawful or harmful behind the scenes. And I think we need to just also clarify that a conspiracy, we all have bias, right? And we might get into that, but we all have our own biases. And so when I share an opinion with you, it's not necessarily a conspiracy, or when I have an opinion about something, it's not. If I'm looking at the facts and I've done some research and this and that doesn't make it a conspiracy because you don't agree with me. So we have to differentiate there too between biases and opinions. That doesn't necessarily make it a conspiracy theory. So
Right.
Yeah.
So is COVID-19 a conspiracy?
I won't answer that.
All right. So, that's one of the things. A lot of people are starting to ask the question, and the government around it. We're talking about conspiracies. I'll just jump in. I have some favorites, and I've actually found conspiracy theories to be, shall I say, entertaining over the past years. I was given a book as a young child, and then just a few years ago, I was given a book on conspiracies, and so I've followed things like the Bermuda Triangle, or what's going on in Roswell, New Mexico, Area 51, and then there's the idea of chemtrails. So the smoke that's left behind an airplane, or the exhaust left behind an airplane. And I think that's connected with, can the government read our minds, that all the satellites up there aren't just for Google so they can do the Google Maps, but that the government is using those satellites to read your brainwaves and know what you're thinking. So people, they get worried about that. But so I don't know. I guess what I'd like to know is, okay, I enjoy them, I find them entertaining. Are they becoming more prevalent now? Like, do you think they are? We're certainly hearing a lot with COVID.
Yeah, I guess I don't know for sure. Like as a kid growing up, it didn't really, I've heard of a lot of what you're saying, a lot of those things. I don't know so speaking from my experience, I guess they've always been there. They're always kind of talked about because they're mysterious, and I think there's that entertaining, there's that element to it as well. But certainly now with like social media and other things, I would say it's probably maybe picking up more steam as far as some of that goes. It's easy to spread misinformation, right? And people can make headlines so appealing and attractive that you just, like clickbait, where you just want to You don't want to go there and you want to read that and you know, what do they have to say about that? And then, you know, we're gullible people at times too, and so we read things, we see things, and we kind of fall into it. But certainly, you know, with fear due to the pandemic and people, you know, worried and all that, I think it causes us to fall into that stuff even more when you read some of that stuff as an explanation as far as what's going on around you. So I don't know, yes, maybe, probably because of what we're going through, they're more prevalent than they were in the past, but they certainly have always been there, and we've always been drawn to trying to figure them out, right? At least ones that have lasted. So yeah, like the vaccine, and that's been going on for a lot of years, right?
Sure. So definitely the availability of more information. Like information is just so much more available, and then the question is what's right and what's wrong. Yeah. And that creates all kinds of confusion. So but certainly it can be entertaining, but it's definitely polarizing, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I guess, and to say that, to go with that too, I mean, it doesn't help that there's the growing skepticism about the government, right? You know, in interpreting their laws and the things that they're saying, you know, we can and can't do, and some of the things that they're asking of us, you read into that, and you know that some of the things they've done in the past, like they're people with human natures, right? And so they sin, they don't always do things perfectly, and so when there's this growing skepticism of it, and then, you know, that spreads, that can just help you buy in that much more, and like you said, it's polarizing, but it leads you to go, you know, okay, is the government really for us, or are they really looking out for our best interests? And that's a hard one to nail down. They would say they are, they would never admit they're not, but that's tough.
Okay, so what I want to know then is, we had a lot of ideas, we've had a lot of conversations, certainly we've talked about conspiracy theories quite a bit in the past few months. Why do you want us to talk about this now? Like, why in front of a video? Why with an audience? What is it that really causes you to say, this is what we need to be talking about?
Yeah, I think it's just a good conversation as far as talking about the fear behind it, not just the fact that, okay, this is something that's going on, so everybody's kind of dealing with it, and you're kind of confronted with it all the time in conversations at work and stuff. Guys are asking questions like that. People are asking questions because of the fear, the anxiety. So to be able to address it, to just, you know, this is what the Bible, this is how we should think through it, I think that's helpful. I think also one of the things, at least, that you hear about people that get so distracted by it that it consumes them, right? And we'll get into it later as to, you know, why that's problematic. But if it's consuming us, then we need to run from that. But they're grounded in lies, right? And conspiracy theories or in the very least, they're things we don't know to be true. So we want to address those. We don't want to be believing those things. We don't want to be perpetuating those things and spreading them around, right? Because, as you said, they're divisive, they're polarizing, right? And we obviously don't want to, as Christians, we don't want to be labeled as that, as spreading falsehoods and stuff like that. So I think it's important that we just understand how to think about conspiracy theories.
Okay, so they're problematic. Now, you've talked about fear. You and I have had a conversation about this more than once, and one of the concerns that you have is fear. That giving into a conspiracy theory is giving into fear. Can you explain that? Like, just what do you mean by that?
Yeah, and you can help me along the way too. But I think when it comes to, well, we know, we've seen it in the pandemic that, like, fear controls, right? And we've seen it in the past when we're scared, we're easily influenced, and we can easily be influenced away from things or towards certain things. And I'm not going to say that the governments are trying to scare us and all this stuff, but naturally, when we look at the news and we see different things and we interpret the pandemic and other things, we can get scared of what we're seeing, and as a result, we behave a certain way. And so, sure, fear can be a way to control us, and I think when we look at the Bible and we think of fear, and in light of conspiracy theories, I think of 2 Timothy, where we're encouraged not to be afraid. We're encouraged not to be fearful, and it says God gives a spirit of power and love and self-control, not of fear, right? And there's other reasons why we're not to be, and we don't need to be afraid. but it creates this anxiety in us that is unhealthy when we give into those things, when we believe those things, and again, being encouraged in the Bible not to be anxious. Now that's obviously harder, easier said than done, right?
Philippians 4.
Yeah, when it's easy to say that, but when you put yourself in different situations, we all fall into that anxiety at times, and some people are more prevalent towards that. So you got to be careful, I think, about that. But we can be encouraged that God takes care of His children, and so when you think of the things going on around us, God, He's taking care of us, right? He's in control, and that's where faith and trust comes in, right? And I think of Job 42 when Job says no plan, no purpose of God can be thwarted, right? Like He's in control, and so He can be trusted. We can have faith in Him. We don't have to be fearful of of what's going to happen, of what could be happening if some of these things are true. And I do think when we give into we give into the fear of conspiracy theories and following them and listening to them, we kind of downplay God's sovereignty, right? Like we almost say, well, maybe, where's God in this? Maybe it's the government, right? And we got to remember, okay, God's the one in control. He's the one, like, where is He in this, right? Like, He's not gone,
Right.
Right? And but we see, we read these and we spread these around, and we all of a sudden it's like we kind of we put God in the back, so to speak, and we elevate these governments as far as being in control. It's like, well, it doesn't matter what happens there, God's still in control of that situation, right?
Right.
So we have to remember that, I think.
Well, I'm going to jump in because I think about this I mentioned divisive, but it seems to me that some of these things are, shall I say, foolish speculations, to use a biblical phrase, and you mentioned 1 Timothy, just the fear element. But if you read in that same chapter, Paul is telling Timothy, look, there's a lot of foolishness out there. And I think in part he's referencing theology, but it seems to me that just some of the facts that are out there, that we can distort those facts to create all kinds of speculation, unhealthy speculation, and it actually becomes very divisive. So as a church, when we start entertaining some of these foolish ideas, you take a look at 1 Timothy 1:4 or 2 Timothy 2:23, and it's there are these exhortations to stick to facts, and I think that there's another element where, and I mentioned this on Sunday, just thinking about the people that raided Capitol Hill, and thinking about the fish on the backs of cars or the Christian T-shirts, that we represent Christ, and so there's an element of what are we saying to the rest of the world when we buy into these things? Now, you and I have talked about this. You have a phrase that you've used. How does that phrase go about the sky is falling? Yeah,
I just posed the question to you the other day, and I've had to ask myself the same thing, and I've asked other people this before too, and it's different for depending on the conspiracy, but the way I've been thinking through these things is, there's two options, two ways you can go about it. At least I'd be curious as to where we would land. And so the first one is, would you rather be the guy where you're running around and you're telling everybody about these conspiracies and you're spreading these things, and we don't know if they're true or not because they're conspiracy theories, or that's what they are. And so you're running around, sky is falling, everything, whatever, blah, 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 blah. These things are happening. Or I'd rather be the person who doesn't pay attention to them a lot, who just kind of goes about his merry business, but in the end, maybe the wolves pull over his eyes, and some of these are actually true. So whatever, and like it's different for each one, right? So if it was a vaccine, would you rather be the person running around spreading these conspiracies that there's all this stuff and chips, or would you rather be the person that got their wool pulled over their eyes and it turns out, this was actually true, and that's different for each one. Like, I think when we were talking about it, it's like you want a blanket statement, that one, but I think depending on, we have to at least ask that, and for certain ones they're just not worth being on either side of, I think. Right.
So there's a point in which sometimes we might be more desirous to be on a sky is falling mindset versus the other way. All of that is rooted in truth, and this has been a passion of yours lately, that when we promote falsehood or what have you, who are we serving? So I want to ask you to comment on the truth element.
Yeah. Well, certainly by definition, conspiracy theories can't be proven, right? Like,
Right.
that's in their definition. They're a conspiracy, which is a secret
Right.
plot, and they're theories.
Right.
So by definition, they can't be proven true. If they were to be all of a sudden proven true, they would no longer be conspiracy theories, right? They would, they'd be facts. They would, whatever the case is, they'd be true.
Right.
So some of that that's one thing, and I think along those lines, then, if they're no longer conspiracy theories, and if they are and they're not actually true, then knowing that we need to be careful. We need to be extremely careful. If we know, some of these things that we're saying that are conspiracy theories, if we know that that's what they are, then we have to be careful in what we say. And John 17:17 says, "Sanctify them in the truth. Your word is truth." And so, as Christians, we need to love truth. Like, that's Jesus is truth. God's word is truth. We need to love truth. We need to love things that are true. And so that, obviously, that takes us to conspiracy theories and understanding that we need to be loving things that are factually correct, right?
Right.
And conspiracy theories being rooted in secrets and theories, we have to be careful there because they're not true by definitions. And we can be gullible, we can lack discernment, and we can certainly fall into those things. And it's just thinking about it too, it's not bad to pursue truth, right? As lovers of truth, we want the truth to come to light, because truth sits in lies and falsehood, they sit in darkness, right? And we bring them to light to
Satan's
confront
the
them.
father
Right?
of lies.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So we want to confront it, but I think of Philippians 4 when it says, "Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, all those things," and truth is in there. We want to be thinking on things that are true, that are factually correct. And we don't have time to go into, how do we discern? When I scroll through Facebook and when I scroll through my newsfeed, well, how do I know that, this news channel or this one is being factually true? Well, we can't just believe everything we read.
Right.
But we also can't be skeptical about every single thing either. So there's got to be a discernment in there.
Balance.
Find the truth,
Yeah.
and do the best you can to kind of figure that out. But as you were saying, Satan being the father of lies, that's in John 8, and I was challenged by this when I was thinking about conspiracy theories, and it was just this idea that when we promote falsehood, when we promote conspiracy theories, which is what they really are, then we're serving Satan rather than God. Like, we're promoting his character, right? Like in John 8, his character is falsehood. It's who he is, right? And so when we spread those things as well, we're promoting that over truth, right? We're promoting falsehood over truth, and I don't want to be there.
Right.
As a believer, I don't want to be
Right.
there. We need to love truth, right? So we
Okay.
gotta be cautious.
Well, what you're saying just matches with, you talked about think on these things, the passage in Philippians. Romans 12:1 is similar. It says, "I urge you, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, present your bodies a living holy sacrifice." But it goes on, it says, "Do not be conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." And it's just, thinking on good things. And 2 Corinthians 10:5 says something similar. It says, destroying speculations, which is, and every lofty thing raised up against the knowledge of God, and we're taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. So truth really does matter in all of this. Before I wrap anything up, did you want to say anything else, just to kind of...
Yeah, I just think the only thing, I go back to, God's sovereignty. He's in control. Let's not take away from that by promoting these things that we don't know are true,
Right.
by believing these things, by being scared of these things that are conspiracies and not proven to be true and are not factually true. Let's not, it's fine to read about them, understand them, be aware, discern, but let's not promote those things and downplay God's sovereignty in all of this, and promote falsehood in the other instance. But then also, let's not be distracted by some of these things, right? Because at the end of the day, no amount of worrying and anxiety on our part, as far as some of these conspiracies that are going around, no amount of worrying is going to stop it, right?
Right.
If that's what's going to happen, that's what's going to happen, right? As far as God being in control and some of those things, we got to just be careful. Not that we don't do anything, not that we don't pursue the truth,
Right.
but that we don't let it distract us from the Great Commission, right? Making disciples, sharing the gospel with people. Like that's what's more important than trying to interpret and understand, you know, the politics of the world around us, right? We would do a disservice to our mission and our testimony if that's all we're focused on. So.
Sure. Well, that's fair. You know, we're in Ephesians right now on our Sunday morning pulpit series, and that was another point in time in which I know the subject of conspiracy theories came up, because at the end of the book it talks about spiritual warfare. And so just in my life experiences, spiritual warfare really begins in the mind, and the things that we allow into our mind, you know, different ideas and so on, and so it matters. So just to wrap up, I guess the exhortation would be to try and stay safe and keep yourself, keep your thoughts clear, and trust in the Lord ultimately. But also watch out for those government brain scanners, and make sure you put on your tinfoil hat so that you can protect yourself. And yeah, how do you like that? That'll work for you, right?
Unbelievable.
So I'll be safe now. So stay safe and trust in the Lord.